Hello everybody and welcome back to Armchair Bikers TV. My name is Zach, aka The Bearded Stick, and today I wanted to make a quick video because we got a brand new announcement from Suzuki. Suzuki finally announced the price for the new Suzuki DR-Z4S and the DR-Z4SM. We've known about this bike for quite a while. If you've watched one of my previous videos where I went over bikes that I was excited for in 2025, this bike was at the top of the list. And I said the main thing that could keep this bike from being competitive in this lightweight dual sport segment was the price. And today, we finally figured it out. So stay tuned. We're going to go over not only the price, but a special offering from Suzuki if you decide to be one of the first in line to get your hands on this new model. All that and more coming up next. All right, without further ado, let's just get right into it. The MSRP for both models, the 4S and the 4SM, because remember, there's two models. There's the off-road version, which is the S, and then there's the super-moto version, which is the SM. Both models, same price, $8,999 US dollars. That is the MSRP, $8,999. How does that compare to other bikes in the segment? Is this bike worth it? Is it competitive? Well, we're gonna take a look into that. But first, let's take a look at the special reservation promotion that Suzuki is offering if you wanna be one of the first people to get your hands on these bikes. So, if you reserve a Suzuki DR-Z4S or SM by March 31st, 2025, you will receive a special accessories package and priority delivery, I guess, on the bike. So there's actually two packages based on which bike you get. If you get the DR-Z4S, which is the off-road version, Suzuki's gonna throw in an aluminum skid plate, a set of handguards, and front and rear disc guards. So they're estimating this package to be like a $450 retail value, and you're getting all that stuff absolutely free just by reserving your bike before March 31st. If you get the DR-Z4SM, the package is actually a little bit different. Instead of the aluminum skid plate, they're giving you a rear luggage rack on the back, and then you get handguards still, so same thing there, nothing changed, and then front and rear axle sliders instead of the disc guards. So kind of cool that Suzuki is throwing in these different accessory packages to sort of incentivize ordering the bike. This is a bike that I'm really interested in personally. I'm still on the fence on whether or not I want to get one. Going through all this information today has really made me excited over this bike. So I don't know, let me know down in the comment section below if one of these DR-Zs is something that you would like to see on the channel, something that you would like to see us make content with. It's probably not going to take me too much convincing to maybe try to get my hands on one, but let me know if you would like to see that content in the future. Now, what I wanted to go over was how does this pricing compare to other models in the segment? Well, I made a chart really for my own organizational purposes to try to organize my thoughts for this video, but I will throw this chart up on the screen. It is kind of sloppy, a little messy, because I didn't make it to be presented. I just made this just to organize my own thoughts, so sorry about that, but I am gonna just throw it up in case you want to just take a look at all the information and digest it yourself. But if you don't want to do that, I'm going to summarize, of course, my main takeaways after comparing all this information. So on this chart, I'm basically comparing the new Suzuki to the Honda CRF 300L, the CRF 450RL, and the Kawasaki KLX 300. I just picked these three bikes because they're the first dual sport bikes that really come to mind when you're thinking about purchasing a lightweight dual sport. I think the 300L and the KLX 300 are probably the two most popular dual sports that people are going to be comparing this bike to, but I also threw in the 450RL because after looking at all the information, I was surprised to see how comparable the two models are, at least from a spec sheet standpoint. So I did organize all this information and then came up with some key takeaways, which I'm going to summarize for you now. Let's start with the specs on the Suzuki. So for an engine, we're looking at a 398cc single cylinder dual overhead cam liquid cooled engine, making 38 horsepower and 27.3 pound-foot of torque. For transmission, we're looking at a 5-speed transmission. Front suspension, looking at a KYB fork that has adjustable compression and rebound with 11 inches of travel. For the rear suspension, we're looking at a KYB shock that is fully adjustable, so compression, rebound, and preload with 11.6 inches of travel. The front rotor is a 270 millimeter rotor. The rear rotor is a 240 millimeter rotor. Fuel capacity 2.3 gallons. Seat height 36.2 inches. Curb weight ready to ride 333 pounds. And the ground clearance is 11.8 inches. When comparing the horsepower, the Suzuki has 14 more than the 300L. It has basically the same as the 450L. The 450L also has 38 horsepower, but has slightly more torque at 27.8 foot-pounds. And 14 more than the KLX 300. When comparing suspension travel, the Suzuki has 0.8 inches more than the 300L in the front and 1.4 inches more than the 300L in the rear. When we compare it to the 450L, we're looking at 1 inch less in the front and 0.2 inches less in the rear. When we compare it to the KLX 300, the Suzuki has 1 inch more in the front and 2.5 inches more in the rear, so significantly more suspension travel than the KLX 300. When we're looking at seat height, the Suzuki is 1.5 inches taller than the 300L, 1 inch shorter than the 450L, and 1 inch taller than the KLX 300. When we're looking at ground clearance, we're looking at 0.6 inches more than the 300L, 0.8 inches less than the 450L, and 1 inch more than the KLX 300. When we're looking at weight, the Suzuki is 27 pounds heavier than the 300L, 44 pounds heavier than the 450L, and 31 pounds heavier than the KLX 300. And finally, price. The Suzuki is $3,250 more than the 300L, $1,100 less than the 450L, and $3,550 more than the KLX 300. Other cool thing to mention about the Suzuki is that it's the only bike with adjustable ride modes, traction control, and switchable ABS, which I think is really cool. The 300L, no ride modes, no traction control. Of course, the 300L is available in ABS. In fact, the pricing that I referenced is for the ABS model. The 450L, no ride modes, no ABS, no traction control. The KLX 300, no ride modes, no ABS, no traction control. So the fact that the Suzuki provides adjustable ride modes, adjustable traction control, front and rear ABS, and you're able to turn off that ABS completely if you don't want it. Ride-by-wire throttle, of course, because you can't have adjustable ride modes without a ride-by-wire throttle. Really neat features to see from Suzuki that the other bikes don't have. The fact that the suspension is fully adjustable, whereas the 300L has almost no adjustment besides the preload in the rear. The KLX 300 does have some adjustment in the front suspension and fully adjustable rear suspension, but again, the travel is significantly less than the Suzuki. The 450L does have more suspension travel, both in front and rear, and the suspension is adjustable. Another thing to note is that this bike does happen to have the largest fuel capacity out of all four. So 2.3 gallon fuel capacity compared to 2.1 gallons for the 300L, 2 gallons even for the 450L, and 2.1 gallons for the KLX 300. Minor difference, but something to note. Another weird note that I wanted to mention is that the Suzuki is the only bike that has a 5-speed transmission instead of a 6-speed. So something to keep in mind. Hopefully the gear ratios are spaced out appropriately so that way you can use the bike on the trail but still be able to go on the highway. But the 5-speed is something that worries me a little bit. I think having 6 speeds allows you to have more versatility as far as your gear ratios go, but we'll have to see. On paper, it's a much more capable bike than the 300L and the KLX 300, but it is significantly more expensive. I mean, over $3,000 more is nothing to sneeze at. I did like the fact that it came in at a cheaper price than the 450L. When I had made my original video, I was worried that they were going to price this at like the exact same price, or who knows, even more than the 450L. I was really worried that Suzuki was just going to kill us with the price. So I'm at least happy to see that it is less than the 450L. The 450L is one of those bikes that you're primarily just going to use on trails and then maybe just hop on a public road real quick to get to your next set of trails. It's really a dirt bike that just happens to be street legal. The DR-Z4S and SM really seem to be bikes that are truly dual sports, bikes that you can daily commute to work, bikes that you can take on longer weekend trips, camping trips. and do some longer road miles and also do trail miles as well. One of the things that I think really holds the 450L back is the valve service intervals. Maybe a little bit of a controversial topic with the valve service intervals, because Honda does recommend 1,800 mile valve service intervals, which is just not practical if you're going to use the bike in a true dual sport fashion, taking the bike on longer rides and camping trips, using it as a daily commuter and consistently putting on many road miles. Having to check the valves every 1,800 miles is just a little impractical. Of course, there are arguments to be made that it's not necessary to check them every 1,800 miles. I'm sure there's people that have gone longer intervals without doing that. But let's face it, the 450L is a detuned CRF 450 motocross bike. So I think the DR-Z4S is gonna be a more practical bike for someone who wants to use it on a daily basis, in my opinion. Now, so there we have it, guys. There's all the information that we have on the new Suzuki. Again, significantly more expensive when you compare it to the Honda 300L or the KLX 300. It does have a lot of great features. I think the power figures are very respectable. I love the styling of the bike, and I think it really is going to be competitive in this lightweight dual sport segment. In my personal opinion, I do think maybe it's a little pricey. I would have liked to maybe see it closer to like the $7,000 range. Let me know in the comment section below, where do you think this bike lands? Do you think it is a direct competitor to the CRF 300L and the KLX 300? Or do you think it is more comparable to the 450L? And as far as the price point goes, do you think it's overpriced? Do you think that people are going to stick with the cheaper options? Or do you think the features provided by Suzuki are worth that extra money? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Me personally, I'm still really excited about this bike, regardless of it maybe being a touch overpriced. But with all that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out our older videos. One other thing I'd like to mention is go check out our friends at itsbetterontheroad.com. We recently teamed up with them to bring you guys a helmet review, which is posted on their YouTube channel. I will leave that video link in the description below. And again, make sure to check out their website, itsbetterontheroad.com. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.